Hey everyone, it's Peter Kerr from Rock Daydream Nation, and today I've got a special show. I've got John Beagley. John Beagley is a singer, songwriter, and producer. He's currently producing an album by a up-and-coming band called Life in Digital. John, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. John, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, God. Yeah. Well, I've been writing and recording music for since I was about 15, properly, with 4 tracks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I started writing songs when I was about 11. I used to sing in a choir, played violin really badly, played piano reasonably well, and then suddenly realised that I could play piano by ear a lot better than I could with music. So my first memory is I was quite a big fan of Elton John's kind of stuff in the 70s kind of stuff, and I got the book of music and I looked at it and I started playing. I thought, and I read the guitar chords and I thought, no, it's more like this. And then I think that whole process of learning to play by ear and actually starting to write, albeit rubbish sort of stuff at the start, I just got the bug, and it was like, and I had a tape-to-tape machine to start with, and I'd play a piano part, and then I'd get a little synthesizer, and as one cassette was playing onto another one, I'd bounce in another synth part over the top. And then I started singing, because I had an awful lot of trouble when my voice broke, because I was quite a good singer when I was a choir boy, but when my voice broke, my voice was all over the place. It was kind of awful, so a bit screechy.
Yep.
But I played in various bands and stuff, and we used to play like Pink Floyd and Rush covers. We did Distant Early Warning, that was on our set list. And then, I kind of went into more of a Howard Jonesy kind of pop phase with a band called So It Is in the 90s. And we did lots of gigs and stuff. We got quite a lot of record company interested. We nearly got signed to ZTT, which was Trevor Horn's label at the time, about 19... I don't know what that was now. 92, 93, something like that. But unfortunately, they went for the All Saints, which were a massive band here in the UK. They went platinum. And so we didn't quite beat that one. And then 2000, I kind of gave up music. I just had enough, just getting record companies interested in that. Just, you get so far and it just wasn't the right image. And we were battling with boy band things and girl band things. And it really wasn't us at all. So I actually gave up, got married, had a kid, and then someone introduced me to MySpace music, and thought, well, let's have a look at this. And through that, I've just developed like a whole sort of fan base, if you want to call it that, over the world. People that are interested in music, and then that's coming at Facebook, and so and it's been a wonderful networking tool, and actually has enabled me to sell my own music across the world without a record label, which has been great. So it's all good fun now. The whole pressure of getting that deal, like, that was kind of really hard in my teens and 20s. Now that doesn't matter. It's just about the music, and it's great. I love it. Absolutely. The bug's still there, very much the same.
Going back in time, what was the musical acts that first inspired you to take the pursuit of music?
Back in time. So the first track, I remember my first memory of music was listening to the Beatles' Blue and Red album at my mum and dad's when I was really small, and sitting in a washing basket playing Boats and just listening to the music and just looking at the covers. I remember that so vividly. The one track I remember as I was probably 5 or 6 years old was Fanfare for the Common Man by Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I remember hearing that on the radio and just going, what? This is amazing. And just I recorded that on a cassette. It must have been about a dozen times all in a row every time I heard it on the radio. So I was really, that was a significant thing. The Raw Band, the Crunch, there was a song. War of the Worlds, Jeff Wayne, War of the Worlds. My auntie introduced me to that. And I absolutely loved that. And then I sort of went into the electronic field. So I loved Jean-Michel Jarre. I loved Tangerine Dream, Isaiah Automata, all this kind of electronic stuff. Then my friend got me into Genesis. Duke was my first purchase, although it was a bit later than that's about 83, 84 when I actually got in that. And then I found Rush, and my first Rush album was Power Windows, and that's why I loved watching your video with was it Tim and Todd talking about Power Windows, because I could so relate to that, because that just was another one of those boom moments of this is amazing. Because my allegiance was very strongly with Phil Collins being best drummer in the world at that point. And then when I heard Neil Peart, I thought, oh my God, he might actually be, well, almost as good or better. So, and then, Rush, I just got into prog and, all that kind of stuff. And just pop music as well. I quite like pop music as well. But anything that's melodic and interesting, I listen to it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. You've worked with a lot of musicians from bands such as GTR, King Crimson, and Van der Graaf Generator. What musicians left the biggest impression on you?
That's a difficult one. I've met some really nice guys. It was wonderful being on stage with Phil Spaulding. I don't know if you know Phil. He was the bass player in GTR. He passed away a couple of months ago, bless him. I was a big Mike Oldfield fan as well. So when I knew that he was going to be part of this band that I was in for a while, it was like, oh, you're joking. A bit of a knee trembly moment. And then, he was such a sweetheart. Though. He was he was lovely, really supportive. And he was quite keen on my music as well. We kept talking about coming over and doing a track, and then he'd always have some paid work to do. So it's really difficult to get him over. Unfortunately, never did. But we used to phone each other up, even after the band had kind of finished what they were doing. It was just nice to talk to him. And he's so enthusiastic. I think he, of all of them, not just because he was a brilliant bass player and a very, very good musician, but the sort of charity work he's involved in, because he had a big public problem with drugs that he made no secret of. It's all over his website if you want to go and see it. And back then I was actually in the police force. That was my job, my daytime job for a while. So I thought this is going to be interesting. And he told me about when he was busted for drugs and the fact that if it wasn't for a police officer that spoke to him through the cell door saying, you're Phil Spaulding, what the hell are you doing on this gear stuff? Get off it. You're an amazing musician. He said that was such a big impression. And the way he went about his life, he did a lot of charity work for Hep C and HIV sufferers and drug addiction and that sort of thing. Not just a wonderful musician, but an incredible guy as well. Just, his personal life was even more inspiring. I think his amazing bass playing. The stories he would come up with, the people that he played with is just awesome. David Cross was an amazing guy from King Crimson. That was a special moment. I remember rehearsing with him and thinking, oh shit, I better not screw this up. Because I've got David Cross next to me. And he would do his violin bit and I'd sing this bit. And then just an amazing moment when he looked across to me and said, that was really well sung, well done. I thought, it doesn't get better than this, does it? So Mark Brzezicki, he's another fantastic drummer. I don't know if you know Mark. He's played with Big Country, a big band out here. Played on the Free Nelson Mandela concert with Phil Collins. He's a big Phil Collins fan and still in touch with him. So being on a band with him for a while, that was awesome. I love drums. Sit and listen to drummers all day. And then Simon Collins, of course. Simon's a good friend. We've done a couple of things together in the past, and he's quite often Skyping me and messaging me. And I think back to when I was at school playing, Genesis songs and thinking, oh, no way would I ever in imagined year, think that I'd be like friends with Simon Collins, Phil's son. It's nuts.
Yeah.
So I've been really lucky, really, really lucky.
Yeah.
So that's multi-asked your question then. Sorry.
No. There's
so
great.
many.
Yeah, I know. Any sort of memorable gigs or concerts that still stick in your mind?
Memorable gigs. Oh my goodness. I remember doing a gig with my band at the Noughties in a place called the Mean Fiddler, which is quite a nice little venue in northwest London. We were supporting a prog band, Jump, I think they were called. And the sound crew were coming up to us because we were just a sporting act there, and they came up to us and said, this is just great. You've got to do the headline slot. Headline. I was just a couple of guys from Aylesbury, we're not headlining act, but that was a great. We got the crowd going quite well with that gig. We probably didn't gig enough in that band. If that was our problem. We were so busy writing and producing and trying to do demos for record companies that were showing a little bit of interest, and not enough time gigging. I think probably the most impressionable one would have to be with the ESP lot. It was a thing that a musician called Tony Lowe and Mark Brzezicki set up. we had all these guest musicians in. So, you know, we had David Cross and Van der Graaf Generator, David Jackson, and we had obviously Phil Spalding and Mickey Simmons, who's played with Fish, and also Mike Oldfield as well. So yeah, I think that was like one of those moments, being on stage playing a gig with that lot was just, what am I doing here? So yeah, that was great. I'll always remember that. That was a one-off special gig that just happened, and yeah, wonderful memories of that for sure.
Nice. You're a songwriter. So what do you prefer? Do you write songs on paper, or do you generate songs, say, from jamming?
Yeah, generate songs from jamming. I can't write. I probably could write music basically. It's been a long time since I did theory and that sort of thing. But I find that whole process of getting it from here onto notational music is really difficult, when I can just play it on the piano and then sing a load of melodies that come into my head and then try and find words for it. So yeah, I'm much better by ear than by reading music for sure.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that you're almost in the frame for working with Trevor Horn and ZTT. Maybe just expand a little bit on that.
Oh God. So yeah, we sent a demo tape off randomly to, it was actually publishing company Perfect Songs, which was the publishing side of ZTT. And I sent the tape off to them because we were just trying to think, well, let's try and find a label where we know we like the music on that label. And so we went through some of our record collection and CD collection, and you know, we came up with Frankie Goes to Hollywood and Seal and ABC and all these kind of like bands that we liked at the time. And ZTT was the common thread, so we thought, let's do this. So I remember we sent a tape off. Didn't expect anything at all. Literally within a week, I got a with compliments slip back in the return envelope from them, because this is well before the days of emails and things like that. And it was just from a guy called Simon Aldridge, and he just basically said, I really like this. I'd like to come and see you live. Can you give me a call on this number? So at that point, we were in the studio recording one of the songs that we'd actually submitted again, because another local sort of studio engineer said, look, come into our studio. I'd like to record that. So we were there, and I phoned him up and said, well, we're actually recording at the moment. We're not doing any gigs. But he said, where are you? And we're in a little place called Chesham. And apparently this A&R guy, he lived somewhere near there, Simon, and it was Christmas Eve, and he popped up into the studio and he listened to what we were doing, and then he gave me a little call when he got back and said, John, I don't want you to work in that studio. I think you're wasting your time. You're better off doing your own stuff, even though it might be quite so good quality, because there's something about the production of what your guys are doing together rather than being with someone else. He's making it sound like everything else. You do something more charismatic, and there's more interest in it. So that we did. And then we sent him a few more demos, and he was enthusiastic. And then he said, okay, well, look, we've got an A&R meeting coming up. It's going to be myself, Trevor, his wife, Jill Sinclair, and I think Paul Morley. So he said, yours is, I'm not going to lie, he said, it's yours and a few others that we've earmarked. So I'll let you know. So I just remember the phone call that evening. I was like, yeah. And he just basically said something along the lines of, John, okay, it's not good news. I'm really sorry. We loved your music. Everyone around the table loved your music. Trevor thought it was particularly good. He was really keen. But his wife, Jill Sinclair, is very, very unsure about the image. She's not sure about two guys playing keyboards and singing. It's a bit 80s-y. So she's been gunning for an all-girl group who are good. They write really good songs, and we're going to go with them, I'm afraid. And that was it. He did move on to Sony Music after that a few years later, and we re-established contact with him. But it was kind of still, we were probably 95, 96 then, and it was still in the UK. It was very much boy bands.
Yes,
Take That. I don't know if you know these guys,
yes, absolutely, yeah.
And we were up against it. You know, how many times did record labels say, "Oh yeah, can you guys dance?"
Yeah,
like, no. So yeah, it wasn't to be. And I think really what we should have done is follow the publishing route, because back then, you know, people were saying the songs are really good. You know, you can make the music, but it's the image thing that's always the problem. Which is a fair play. I mean, I don't I was disappointed, but looking back, All Saints, they went platinum here. They were massive, so it was obviously a brilliant decision. They obviously made the right decision. So, but at the time it's pretty. But I did see the girl from All Saints. She lives in my neck of the woods. She was in my supermarket. My wife pointed me out, so I actually went up to Shaznay and said, "It's Shaznay from All Saints," and she said, "Yeah. I've got a bone to pick with you. Don't worry, there's no autograph here. I've got a bone to pick with you." She said, "Oh, really?" I told her the story and dropped a few names and that. She said, "Oh, you must really hate me." And I said, "Well, maybe a bit." And she came up to me and she gave me a little hug in the middle of it. "I'm so sorry." She said, "I'm really sorry. I've seen it a couple of times around. Oh, no, it's my nemesis."
Yeah. I really appreciate hearing this story because it gives a little bit of insight into the machinations, and maybe it was just the wrong time, the wrong place. Do you ever reflect and think, if only 10 years earlier, or
Yeah, I mean, you go through all sorts of things. I mean, I worked with my best friend Chris from school, and I was his best man. He was my best man, and he was great with the computers. He was much more into computer stuff, and I was more into like writing. So we were a great team, and I learned a lot from him. And I remember I was quite friendly at one point with the lyricist, a guy called, I don't know if you know Howard Jones out there. Was he quite?
Yes, he had a
pop singer.
Few hits.
He was the lyricist on his first album, Humans Live, a chap called Bill Bryant. And back when I was a teenager, he was telling me, do everything yourself. Don't rely on anyone else. Do it all yourself. You have to keep this to yourself. And I couldn't really, because I wasn't technically good on computers. And to be honest with you, apart from using what I'm using now, I'm not very good at computers, which is why it took me about 5 minutes to log on your thing. But it was like, yeah, okay, I'll try, but then I couldn't. And I sometimes think, as much as we did do well, should I have just gone on by myself and learn it all myself? Would I have done it any differently? Would I don't know. You can look back and think, but I think it's all written down there. Someone up there has got it all written down for you. You can't fight it. You can only do the best you can. And if it's not to be, it's not to be, So
Absolutely. So moving along in your career, you got into record producing or music producing. Can you tell the viewers how you got into that?
Yeah. So I think when I started up doing music again on MySpace, and I was using like a 16-track like digital recording device, which I bought with some, I think, money that one of my grands passed away and left me a bit of money, so I thought I'd do that. And then I took the plunge going into Macintosh and trying to work out how to do it. And having worked with Chris a lot in So It Is, we were using like Macs all the way along there. So I kind of picked up on various things, and Chris came over and gave me the basics, said, okay, this is what you need to roughly do. So initially it was a bit daunting, but I soon got a hang of it. A lot of it was very similar to what I was using before. And so I was doing stuff, and various people would ask me, oh, can you possibly do a little like remix or something of a track, or could you record me doing some stuff? So yeah, I did some of that for a while, to varying different degrees of success. But a few times. I don't do it hugely. I don't like I'm not that kind of people that, oh yes, he was good. These are all sort of semi-pro musicians that ask me to do the odd thing now and again. And if I'm not busy, I'll try and help, especially if I like the music. It's great fun. It's a good experience as well for me. So
yeah, absolutely. Do you normally seek the musicians, or the musicians seek you?
A bit of both, really. So sometimes I'll find someone and say, "Oh, I love that song. Could I have a go at it?" And sometimes people approach me and say, "Oh, I like what you're doing. Could you do this for me?" So, yeah, it's both ways, really.
Yeah. Do you prefer performing or working in the studio?
Oh, I used to say working in the studio, but I'd like to do more live stuff, but. I don't know what it's like in Australia, but here it's really, really, really difficult. I mean, even with that band of famous musicians, we only played a small club in London, and there was probably about 100 people there at the most, 50 of which were probably my friends and family that come down from all. So it's very difficult. Live music in this area now is not the greatest. It's not the greatest at all. And I think COVID had a massive impact on it as well. So now it's just very difficult. I would love to have bands. The trouble is that kind of music we produce is quite complex, and I might have a few session musicians on it, or I might be using sample loops. And to get a band to actually do that kind of stuff, you got to pay them. And I haven't got a record label. I haven't got a deal. So I've got no money. So it's just really, really difficult. But, this is the problem for everyone, really. You've got to find people that are willing to do it for nothing, and then go splits on the doors. But if people don't turn up at the doors, then it's really difficult.
Yeah. So you have a fondness for prog rock. Why do you think this is a genre of music that continues to have an audience where some genres sort of wither on the vine?
Oh, I think a lot of a bit of a generalization, but I'd say a lot of prog rock fans are musicians, varying different degrees. So they know they have an understanding of what's good, what's clever, and what's not. And prog music is a bit like jazz. It's very clever. You can't really have prog rock music that's not clever, because that just wouldn't be prog. I don't think. So I think there's a if you were to say, for example, let's go for Rush, for example. I bet I would say 60-70% of Rush fans are musicians of varying different degrees, and you can see all the drummers in the audience. No, but you know what I mean. I think it's we are. I wouldn't say snobbish, because I like listening to pop music. If it's a good song, it doesn't have to be prog to be good. But I think if you're listening to something as a musician in prog, you really do appreciate, even if you don't like it so much, you kind of really appreciate it. Crikey, that's amazing. How did they do that? And I think there's always going to be that group of people, and maybe some of them, the ones that aren't like musicians, they have that little switch in their mind. They know that this is something different. This has been really worked on, like an amazing painting. It's not just been like slap, 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 there it's gone. This has taken time. And there are people out there that listen to stuff and absorb it and really get inspired by it, because they realize just how interesting it is. It's different. It's beyond the norm.
Yeah. So let's talk about your latest project, Life in Digital, fronted by Robin Schnell. Can you tell the viewers how you came across this project?
Well, me and Robin have worked together on 2 albums previously. So we did one called I can't even remember what it's called now, 2,951 Seconds of Sound. And that was kind of like a Buggles meets Yes meets Thomas Dolby kind of electronic thing. And we met and we said, right, we're going to do something along this line, because I don't think anyone's doing that kind of thing. So we did that, and that was really successful. We were lucky with that. We sold loads of CDs and quite a few downloads. Then we did a prog album, a really proggy album last time. And we decided, right, we're going to have a sidelong track, and we're going to make it really, really prog. And yeah, really pleased with the results. But the problem with putting all your effort in a sidelong track is that no radio station on this earth will play it. so you put all that effort into one long song, and the best part of it never gets played because it's too long. So with this one, we're trying to think, right, okay, what should we do? We're not going to do the first album. We're not going to do the second album. We're going to do something different. So I said to Robin, well, look, I love Rush and Power Windows. That's one of my favorite albums. And isn't it a shame that no one's doing anything like that anymore? And I'm not saying like copying the music, but it's just got that arrangement, that depth of production, that kind of interesting whizzy keyboards with big guitars and big songs. That album was so inspiring for me, and that's how I found you and Todd and Tim talking about it. It was just so lovely to see other guys like really enthusing about it, because I felt so connected. I felt, yes, these guys get it. So I said, well, let's try and do something like that, because no one's doing that. So we kind of set about it. Robin had a few songs, I had a few songs. We both had a couple of half songs, so we're kind of merging the few ideas together. And the idea is to try and recreate that kind of epic depth of sound that Peter Collins and his team did back then. Something now, but give it a little bit of a modern twist. So we've been very lucky, because we've been using a piece of software called Neil Peart Drums. Musicians out there, if you don't know about it and you like Rush, you should check it out. There's lots of sample loops of Neil actually playing. So you're not getting just individual drum sounds, which I've also got, but this is actually loops of Neil playing hundreds and hundreds of loops and beats and fills. And it's all commissioned. He commissioned a company to do it. And for me, it's brilliant because I can't play drums, although I love drums. So, and having listened to Rush like for so long, you kind of get an idea of what would Neil do here? He'd do something, and you hunt around for these sounds, and you find this loop of a drum sound, and you put it in. And so we've used a lot of that, which has really helped create this kind of more rushy Power Windowsy sound, because it's kind of, we can't legally say Neil's drumming in it because he's not, but it's about as good as he's ever going to get, because it's sample recordings of him playing. So so that really helps the backbone of the whole production idea. So we've got the kind of Rush thing, and then we've been working on the bass lines, and we've got Steve Babb from Glasshammers playing on a track with the bass as well, and he does a great Geddy Lee kind of sort of sound. So that's going to be cool. So that's the whole idea, and that's what we wanted to do. So we wanted to go out all for leather and try and make not Power Windows Mark II, but something like that for all my fellow Power Window geeks out there that might actually like it. So
yeah, well, I can tell the viewers I've heard some tracks of it, and it's very much in that Power Windows wheelhouse. It's musically curious, inventive, and it feels like I was in like 1984, but it sounds very contemporary at the same time.
Great. Oh, that's really nice. Thank you for saying that, because that's exactly what we want. We want to we want to take people back, but also try to bring it to the forefront and try to give a little modern twist as well.
However, if you like Yes and albums like Big Generator or 90125, this is in your wheelhouse as well, because the lead singer Robin Schnell has that sort of tonality of Jon Anderson. Can you tell us, take back in time, your first encounter with Robin?
Yeah, so Robin found me on a Facebook group. I put a proggy track up in one of the prog groups out on Facebook, and he contacted me and said, I really like this. It reminds me of blah, 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 blah. And he said, there's bits of it sounded a bit like Yes. And he said, funnily enough, he said, I had a very close call with actually singing for Yes. And so, yeah, it's just somewhere around about the time when Jon Anderson went off to do Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, Howe, he left Yes to do that. So Trevor Rabin, Chris Squire, and Alan White were trying to find a singer. And Trevor was actually writing a song called Walls, which is on their Talk album, with Roger Hodgson of Supertramp. And Robin and Roger Hodgson used to be quite good friends out in America, because Robin's actually American. So apparently Trevor said to Roger, why don't you sing with Yes? Because you've got a great voice for it, you could do this. And Roger was pretty reluctant, apparently. He said, look, I don't really want to do it, but I know someone that would do it and would do a really good job of it, and suggested Robin. And apparently they got close to having this kind of like audition, but then Jon Anderson came back and the whole Union project came off, so that never happened. So so Robin linked me in with some of his music, and he's very songy, very, very good, like super trampy kind of stuff, and a bit of Yes in there as well. And he played me some stuff that he'd done with other prog bands, and clearly kind of Jon Anderson pitch. And I thought, this is great. And I actually had a song which is more of an electronic song, which I'd actually written for a girl to sing. And I thought, let me just try and see what he makes of it, because this could be interesting. And so we did this track. It's called Unending. And we put it up on YouTube and Facebook, and it went down really well, because I think it kind of appealed to the Jon Anderson fans and sort of John Vangelis kind of fans. So yeah, that's how we met, and then that took off. And then I just said to Robin, let's meet up. And so we met up, had a coffee in London, and discussed working together and how we could do it. And so yeah, that's how it all took off.
Yeah, well, I tell you, viewers, the tonality of Robin is very much in that Jon Anderson wheelhouse. So I think it's the perfect blend. If you like Rush and you like Jon Anderson, there you have it. it's all in these tracks.
Hopefully, there's plenty of those.
Absolutely. Your role as a producer. What do you think the role of a producer is overseeing these songs? What is it?
someone asked me that today on Facebook, funnily enough, and I had to really think about that, because in the old days, back in the day, it was very clear. The producer back in the, in time, 70s, 80s, 60s, even 90s, there was a guy that sat in the studio, and he's almost like an extra member of the band. So the producer would sit and listen to the demos and would say, okay, I really like this. Have you thought about it? Or, he would throw in creative ideas, not songwriting ideas, but arrangement ideas. So maybe make a bit more of this section, or does this chorus quite work? Do you need to do something a little bit more? That kind of thing. Arrangements, vibe, maybe changing the rhythm of it a bit, trying to get the best out of the song, and the production that the band had submitted on the demo. That would be what I would call a producer. But I think then producers were born out of being sound engineers. So you had these amazing people, that knew how to mic up a kit. And I can think of one, Hugh Pageant, for example, amazing sound engineer, knew how to record everything, and then became a producer because he was also quite a music person as well as being a very good sound engineer. So then you have those kind of producers. Nowadays, it's you have to have a little, the role of a producer is really being diluted. I think there's because of technology and the way it's gone, because now bands can actually do really good stuff using the same kind of stuff I'm using, and come up with a decent noise, and it really does become far less justifiable for a record label to say you need to work with a producer, because half the time these guys cut something that's pretty good. But sometimes they don't, and sometimes people have a producer just there to try and oversee things, try and just get the best out of that music, maybe come up with more soundscape to it, more arrangement to it, just to get the best out of it. So it's like I was working with a lady called Alison Fleming on a track that she's done, and it was so good. It was just such a great song, and I could feel it, and I just thought, it's like 89-90% there, but it needs a bit more. So I said to her, do you mind if I have a go on this one? Because I love this song, and I know Ali because she's worked with me before. And so, I just kind of pushed it a little bit more where I felt it was needing to go. And thankfully she liked it. So, so that was a relief. But it's knowing what to do and what not to do as well. You don't want to butcher something. You think, listen to the song, and if it inspires you and think, oh yeah, I can see where this is going. That's the key. That's I think the role of producer now is much more of they've got to be engaged in the whole digital audio writing process, and final touches and things like that. Some people would say that's mixing, but I think there's a little bit more to it, because there's more sound designy sort of stuff that might need to go in as well.
Absolutely.
You ask another producer that, they'll give you a totally different answer, I think.
yes, I know. Everyone has a different answer to that sort of question. But I guess your philosophy, do you subscribe to living in the moment and having a one take, or multiple takes just to get it right?
Whoa, I am probably on the perfectionist side of things. So I think the idea of getting the vibe on the first take is a brilliant one, and it's like, if you can do it and you can get it, brilliant. But perfectionist in me always kind of thinks, that bit could be just a little bit better. That could be, So I'm afraid I'm a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to that. But
bit Mutt Lang.
Yeah.
Take 2 years.
Oh God. I mean, anyone that's worked with me will know that I do drive people absolutely crazy, because I'll come up with, I think this is it. I think this is it. And then I'll go away and come back to a couple of days later and say, no, it's not right. I've got to just tweak that bit. And those the first 75-80% of anything I do is great fun. It's all boom, 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 lots of ideas. And then those last, getting that polish and getting all the details dead right is a nightmare. And I'm such a flipping OCD idiot, really. I need to know when to stop. That's my problem. I don't really know. So sometimes people tell me, stop, and I will.
Yeah. So with this project, Life in Digital, which it pays a homage to Rush, have there been times where the material you thought, it's just it's been pushed too far and you've had to rein it back?
What, into the Rush kind of field?
Yep.
No, not really. I mean, you've got to look at this, mainly the songs, because the last thing I would ever want to do is upset anyone in Rush with the songwriting. So you strip these songs down, they're nothing. They're not anything that lyrically or melodically or anything that's like Rush. So I've not really had any kind of issues in terms of that. I think in terms of the sound of it, there will be some moments where like a little sound like synthesizer is like that, like an Andy Richards kind of thing, because he was doing that on Propaganda and other stuff at that time, Nick Kershaw. So there's going to be a little bit of that, just in terms of sound design and that kind of thing. But in terms of copyrightable stuff, I hope Blinking not, because that would be a disgrace, and obviously I would never want to up the Rush Boys.
Absolutely. Interesting you said Propaganda, because I wrote down, I was listening to a lot of your material over the last couple of weeks, and the song Nothing But Everything reminds me of very much like a Propaganda.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. Yeah. It's Propaganda was another band, a German synth band, weren't they? They had that, was it Jewel, that album, the first cut?
Secret Wish. It's just a magnificent song. It's probably one of my favorite top 10 pop albums of the 80s. It's kind of a masterpiece in my neck of the woods.
Have you heard the latest one they've done? They've
Love it.
Steve Lipson. Yeah, really good.
Propaganda just gives a shiver up your spine. It's like part two. They pick up where, I mean, they did a sequel to Propaganda. I think it was called 1, 2, 3, 4, but it was not quite the same. I think Claudia left the band, and I think that album actually had Howard Jones on it and a few others, but it was just not quite the same. But Propaganda just picks it up. But I noticed that you're a bit of a fan of old synths. Do you want to tell the viewers some of your favourite toys?
Oh, no. Do you know what? I'm a fan of them, but I can afford half of them. So my first ever synth, proper synth, was something called a Casio CZ101, which was out in 85. And it was a 4-note polyphonic digital synth. It cost £395, which is a lot of lawn mowing and a lot of car washing for me back then. And I kept that synth for a long time. So that was my first synth. Then I got, I had a Roland JX3P, which is a lovely analog synth, which weighed a ton. And then I went on to Kawai K4. And then, when I was in So It Is, we had a whole shed load of them. Oberheims, we had a Korg Wave Station, we had a sampler, EPS, at least it's EPS 16 plus sample, and Sonic, Matrix 1000, MKS 70, synthesizer, just loads of old rack stuff. I mean, back then, when I was in that band, we had racks and racks of keyboards and old gear. And it was like Spaghetti Junction at the back, and you never want to look at the back. It's just awful. But I mean, I was just talking to Chris not long ago, saying I can't believe how much we can do in software now. That I couldn't fit all of that stuff in this house that I've got now. It just wouldn't fit. But what you can do in a Mac now is just unbelievable compared to what we were struggling with back in the 90s. It's a different world. We take everything for granted. It's like a simple thing, like back in the day, just getting a delay setting, so in like an echo, to be in time with the music. You'd have to work out what the beats per minute were, to get your calculator out, work out what that was in terms of seconds. Then you'd work out what delays you'd need in terms of half seconds, quarter seconds, or whatever, and get them to fit. Whereas now you just load it up in the computer and it does it all for you. You don't have to worry about using a calculator. Just little things like that. It's so simple. So I mean, it's a different world now. But the old stuff was really good. But I'd love to have it all, but I'd love to have the room to fit it in.
Yeah, for sure. So why do you think that the 80s is a decade that never seems to age in respect of people, contemporary music? There always seems to be new acts, but are influenced by that classic 80s sound.
I think the 80s sound, for people of our generation, it's very easy to say this, people of our generation, but, you know, I've worked with people that are like a bit older than us, and they'll say, oh no, the 70s, that was the real problem, you know. But I think for us, I think it was because music technology just boomed. So things became so interesting suddenly in terms of sound. You know, you suddenly had all this sampling going on. You had all these amazing synthesizers, FM synthesizers, the X7s. A lot of people hated them, but they were really of the time. And all these keyboards kept developing and developing. Electronic drums and Simmons kits, they came out. It was just so music was. I would say music has just progressed in the same way it did in the 70s, but I think the actual production and the actual sounds and the quality. I mean, if you listen to, even if you took a song from 1980 and then played it up against something of 1987, only 7 years difference. But in that time frame, the sound and the quality of the production and the instrumentation was so much faster. Whereas now, if you listen to something 7 years ago, it doesn't really sound an awful lot different from what's going on now. It's because things just haven't progressed in that same way, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think you want your listeners to get out of this this material?
A warm, fuzzy feeling of, this is what I miss this kind of stuff. Because I don't think anyone out there at the moment, I know, is doing anything quite like this. And some would say, thank God. But, you know, it's very polarizing. You know, some of the Rush fans are very polarized over Power and Dance. You get people that love it, and some people don't. But I want, when they listen to it, I want them to feel that kind of warm, comforting kind of, I like this. This takes me back. But also to enjoy the music and the songs, and put a wallowing in nostalgia, and hopefully come away with the feeling, maybe this music isn't dead. Maybe this music we can still do it. It's still possible to do it. We can still make that kind of music and get away with it and push it further. So don't be defeated. Because I often felt Rush, after certainly Hold Your Fire, they kind of gave up, didn't they? They stopped. The synthesizer stopped. And as much as I like the Roller Bones and the Presto albums, it wasn't so interesting for me to listen to it in terms of production sound and keyboards and integrating keyboards into rock music. It became a bit subdued, and very subdued at the end, of course, with hardly anything. I hope that we can revitalize that moment and make something of it, because there's not just for our generation, but hopefully some of the youngsters will be listening and thinking this is good, because they'd have never heard that kind of stuff before. So that'd be nice if the youngsters heard it and thought, this is different.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you want to tell us about what's the release schedule for Life and Digital this year, and what when the viewers can expect some more material, or the album to drop, I guess?
Yeah, we are very taking our time with it. In fact, Robin sent me a whole bunch of files for another track this evening, so I'll go through that. I think we're about 2/3 of the way through. I'm hoping that it will be done by September. I think the album should be out September time, which gives us plenty of time to finish bits and bobs before we're there. It's a good time to release as well. Everyone's back from holidays, and September out this side, I'm not sure about your side, but September is when they all go back to school after summer holidays here. So that's a good time to do it. That's what I'm aiming to. We've got a couple of releases out on Facebook at the moment, and YouTube's got a couple of sort of singles, so people can have a listen and hopefully share it amongst people and that. But we're looking at probably September.
Great. Well, thank you very much for doing this interview with me, John. It was just John reached out to me and said, sent me a couple of clips, and it was just totally within my wheelhouse. And if you love the power windows and that 80s era, early 80s era of Rush, I love the vocals of Robin Schnell. It just sort of evokes Jon Anderson. And as I said, if you like Jon Anderson and you like Yes and that early 80s Yes, then this is definitely the music for you. And if I will share a couple of links when this clip drops. But John, thank you very much for your time, and it's been wonderful. And it's just great getting some anecdotes in the day. It's always interesting to hear that. So I'll be doing a clip very soon. Cheers.